Hi, I'm at Tate Britain. I've come to see Lynette Yadunbuachi. It's really good, by the way. Go and see it. Excellent work. Fascinating. The titles of the work are, to me, key because they do all the describing apart from the actual artwork themselves. There's loads of people in there. It's half term. There's lots and lots of people in this particular exhibition, mainly older people, which is a bit disappointing, but it does make me think that maybe art isn't quite as accessible to younger people as we would like it to be, or we think it might be. Sorry. So this leads me to think that maybe there's something that can be done. As a teacher of an art and design subject, or two art and design subjects, one at A-level and one at GCSE, and having studied art, histories of art for my degree, I feel that there is a gap. There's definitely a gap in the market for someone or something or some kind of resource that can increase cultural capital of our young people and most of our old people as well, probably. I think a big part of the problem is accessibility to that knowledge. Now, Tate Britain have done an amazing job of explaining to me thought process and the drive and the direction behind these pieces, but as I go around the rest of the gallery, I'm not seeing much information regarding context, time scale. When were these pieces created? What was going on in the world when those things were created? How is a student going to be able to appreciate that artwork just by looking at a canvas carefully positioned on a gallery wall, which is essentially, in my mind, flicking through Google Images, and when we see students trying to do artist research and struggling, and it's a really difficult thing, and I do feel for them, because Google Images is usually the first port of call for a student, and say, for example, they put into Google contemporary art, there will be millions and millions and millions of randomly generated or sourced photos of contemporary art with absolutely no textual information. And we could scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. Do any of them stand out? No, probably not. And so I feel that I'm watching some people, mainly younger people, walking around the gallery, looking at the walls like it is Google Images. And that's not increasing their cultural capital, surely. Surely knowing about the work and where it comes from and what it stems from, what influenced it, what it has influenced, surely is what is needed to increase cultural capital. So, in terms of accessibility, I don't mean have we provided enough resources for people in wheelchairs to access the work. I mean, have we provided enough resources so that students, whether they be GCSE, A-level, degree, people that are doing art history with the Open University like I did, are we providing them with the resources so they can increase their cultural capital? There are a lot of people in there that are taking full advantage of the brilliant things that Tate Britain have done. There's a Spotify link in Lynette's exhibition where you can download the playlist and listen to it as you're going around, and it does, I'm sure, evoke the mood and the feeling of the process. And that's another thing. Where is any mention of the process of the creation of these pieces? Most of these pieces of work in there have a date and a title, and that's about it. And it reminds me of an incident when a few months ago, at the end of last year, we're now February half term 2023. A colleague and I brought 12 A-level students to Tate, Britain, and I had a bit of a moment there because there were students just aimlessly walking around looking at walls, appreciating the work and their importance. We'd all got on a train. Some of them had never been on a train, believe it or not. Some of them had never been to London. Some of them had never been on a tube, let alone go into a gallery like the one behind me. And it's a big thing. It's a really big thing. And then to go inside, be greeted by security guards. We're looking at pieces of work that potentially are worth millions of pounds. They have kudos just through that. Just the position geographically gives the piece kudos and gravitas. But in terms of a student's cultural capital, it has no bearing because they don't understand the piece. And I think that's what we've got to have a look at. Yeah, there was an incident with these students, well, 3 of these students that we came to London with. And I'm going to reenact it for you. So, I'm here, wandering around, and I bump into 3 of our students, and they are literally walking this way. And I can see in their eyes, they're scrolling through the walls. We've got farmers, we've got 1700s, battle scenes. Some important people to my left, some important people to my right. And the frustration in me just went, stop. Let's go and have a look at one of the pieces. It just so happens to be one over there that I know a little bit about. So, I've drawn 3 students' attention to this painting. It's an absolute monster. It's by John Copley, and it illustrates the death of Major Pearson in 6th of January 1781, and that is the actual title, Death of Major Pearson, 6th of January 1781. Now, as I say, it's huge. So, Copley has set his scene in Jersey, which is a little island off the coast of France controlled by the British since 1066. The French want the British out of Jersey, and now seems to be the time as the British are losing the war for the 13 British colonies in the Americas, and they're at the most fragile. However, the French invasion of Jersey didn't succeed, basically because of Pearson's military skill. British society needed some good news because of the war that was being lost in America, to raise morale. So a printer employed Copley to produce a painting which celebrated Major Pearson's victory, which would be displayed to the eager fee-paying public. And the display of this type of art and collected artefacts was basically the social media of the time. So your average 18th century punter was confronted with a raging battle, with the British dressed in red on the left facing the French on the right. The French have suffered the most casualties in this picture, so hope is all lost for them. Even so, for even more drama, there are petrified women and children fleeing from the French. Absolute scenes which really putting the viewer on the side of the British. Unfortunately, Major Pearson copped one in the chest. just as the French are defeated. Copley had no first-hand experience of the event, so his resources would have had to have come from all over the place. Written news accounts, other landscape paintings of Jersey. The captains might have sat live for the artist in a studio so that he could reproduce them, and existing portraits of Major Pearson might have even been loaned by his family to be copied. So it's very finely painted in oils with copious amounts of artistic licence. So I asked, can anyone tell me what's different about this painting? It's got something rare in it. And I get the dreaded awkward silence that a lot of teachers will recognise. There's a black soldier in it, sir. Exactly. We have another hero in the picture. Look, he's the only person visibly firing a gun. He's wearing a different uniform. He's even got ostrich feathers in his hat. But consider the date, 1783. How would black people normally be depicted at this time? And quite quickly, the response is, as slaves, sir. This is the moment, this is ground zero. I'm suddenly so proud that our students are able to make important connections once they're given the basic knowledge to be able to access it. But I am disappointed that it didn't capture their attention the first few times they walked past this huge painting. But they've now detected the lie and the piece is suddenly interesting to them. Bingo. So here at the height of the slave trade, it appears that this man has free will to commit revenge on behalf of his master. He's free of chains and he's free of oppression. So what message was Copley trying to put across to the thousands of people who paid to see it? Well, at face value, it seems that the message is a positive one. Unfortunately not. Although this painting provided a much-needed celebration of British victory, the inclusion of the most likely fictitious black soldier romanticises quite falsely the loyalties of slaves in the British colonies. It's like Copley saying, see, look, the very profitable slave trade's all fine. So it's pro-empire propaganda which potentially, through the painting's popularity in Britain, did much to stall the Slavery Act of 1807. An event which is key to young people's society of today. So, surely, understanding how society was being manipulated by the profiteering art world in the 18th century is the key knowledge here. And I hope that the painting has increased those students' cultural capital by combining that experience to their social understanding. But it is a shame that this huge painting, flags and all, and all its bright colours and all its drama and its original intention was not staring them in the face before. So in terms of cultural capital, walking around the halls, looking at the pictures, like we're scrolling through Google Images, is not doing anything for our cultural capital. Getting the information that is hidden deep within it does, because our cultural capital is based on knowledge. But, sadly, this is all we got. So on that bombshell, I decided to take the tube to Tate Modern. This isn't an attack on the Tate or the group of Tate museums. They're all great. I'm not faulting anybody, but I just went to the Modern because I thought there might be a different sort of clientele. They might have labelled things a little bit differently, and I wanted to go and see some of the stuff there as well. So off we trotted to Tate Modern, and there's a big sign outside that says Tate Modern, free to all, or something along those lines. But to be fair, it's not free. I spent £47.50 on a travel card. The exhibitions, the special exhibitions, are £16 a pop. I went to 2 of those. Quick maths, that's £80-ish. To me, that's a week's worth of food shop for 2 people. So in terms of, there's another issue in terms of accessibility in that respect. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. So for comparison, I've come along to Canterbury, which is the second most visited place in the UK after Buckingham Palace, believe it or not. And there's a lovely little museum called the Beanie. It's actually the Beanie House of Art and Knowledge, which is exactly what we're talking about. It was talking about art and knowledge. So there should be plenty of scope to increase one's cultural capital. I've been to some really good exhibitions there, and it is free. They don't charge for their special exhibitions at all. So if you don't have to get a train or anything like that, then it's great. I've seen Georgia O'Keeffe there, and some of the pieces that they had were stuff that I've never seen anywhere else. There's a brilliant Alan Yentob documentary on Georgia O'Keeffe. The pieces aren't in that. There's some great books out there about Georgia O'Keeffe, and they're not in that. They're just a group of sketches which are very thought-provoking, very evocative of the time and the situation and Georgia O'Keeffe herself. So if you're just opening paper 2 of your GCSE or your A-level, don't forget about the museums that are right on your doorstep, because they are free and they are useful, and you can increase your cultural capital. And the Beanie is the same as the Tate. There isn't much information, and again I saw loads of people scrolling through the walls like Google Images. I did actually try and find out a lot about some of the work and the context of the pieces, and there isn't much information there, which is a real shame. So there is, I've got a broad overview of galleries in the UK, and the problem is the same. One of the reasons I went to the Tate Modern was because I know that Marcel Duchamp fountain is in there, and it is a piece which is pivotal. It marks a point where art is redefined, and obviously it's in a room of its own. It's all painted white. The room is all painted white. It's on a white plinth. It's got a glass dome over the top of it, and there is a little bit of textual information on the wall, but the writing of it is done concisely. And again, I think it's a little bit overwhelming. The way it's written is overwhelming to most people, even to me. I mean, I know about it, and I still found it a little. I had to read it twice to get the information out of it. And I'm just an average person, so I don't see why anyone else would be feeling anything different. And Tate can't really obliterate that white room with text, because then it's not a white room anymore, so it becomes a black and white room, and therefore that sense of focus on the piece is no longer there. It'd be like being in one of the hundreds of books that has been written about the fountain. So again, I'm not blaming the Tate. I don't really know what else they could do, but it's almost like intellectual discrimination. If you already know about it and you understand the language that these passages are written in, then it's accessible to you. But if you're not, like most people, then it's inaccessible. Therefore, you're being discriminated against potentially. But what can the Tate do about it? I don't think they can. You can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. So I've slept on it, or not slept on it, and taken some notes when I should have been sleeping, and I feel like I've learnt a lot. I've learnt that I don't like the sound of my own voice. I've learnt that you can't take enough video footage when you're trying to put a video together, and that I need a microphone because the one on the phone isn't great. It picks up absolutely everything. But anyway, so what you're going to do about it? Are you crying? Absolutely nothing. I'm going to sit here and have a cup of tea and forget all about it. No, if you know me, that's not the case. So my plan, I am going to experiment with creating some videos that focus on possibly a single piece of artwork, and I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to stand right next to it, and I'm going to look at what I looked at with the Deaf and Major piercing. So what was happening at the time when these pieces were created, what was the mood, what were the politics, and I'm going to look at the method in which they were painted, what resources were available, what was around them, what is it actually created with. Then I'm going to look at the effect that it had on society, if it had any effect at all, and most of the pieces of work that I would choose to talk about have, and they're going to be the ones that are most useful to improve on our cultural capital. And then I'm going to look at how we can use that information for our own growth, our own intellectual growth. Scene, method, what's the other thing? Effect. Scene, method, effect and growth, SMEG. Not sure I'll be able to use that because that's a name of an appliance company. However, I do like the sound of getting an intellectual beer out of the fridge of knowledge. That's quite nice. So maybe I'll talk to Smeg about that anyway. Maybe I'll change it to Smug or Smog. So I want to draw out that key information. So who's going to benefit from this? Well, I think everybody. I think I'll benefit from it because I'll be able to go and see pieces that I have never seen and I've always wanted to go and see. And I'll be able to pick them apart for my own benefit. I think that potentially the galleries will benefit because their clientele will get a better experience. They'll come out thinking that they've learned something. If they watch the videos and go and see it and actually stop and look, and having that knowledge does make you stop and have a look. Students obviously could benefit because, you know, they're trying to get decent grades in their GCSEs, A levels and degrees. And if I can point them in the right direction, brilliant. I'm a teacher at the end of the day, so what more could I possibly ask for? Schools as well. And maybe there's a way of incorporating what I want to do to help schools out on a grand basis. So I could look at individual paintings, genres, artists. You know, there could be all sorts of things I could talk about. Maybe even some collaboration. Maybe who's accessible? Who's an artist that's accessible? Grayson Perry. Now he's a great documentary maker, and you know he's looked at life, death, manhood, childhood, all those things, and he does it in a really, really accessible way. So it'd be interesting. I'd love to know what Grayson Perry would think of this, and maybe he would possibly want to get involved. There's lots of other artists like Mandy Payne. I'd love to do a piece on Mandy Payne. Anna Allworthy. She's really local to me actually, and again she may well be concerned that people are walking around galleries like they're scrolling through Google Images. I don't know. But the only thing left really is to work out what to call it. I have no idea. But there you go. It's because I was thinking about it so hard earlier.